How are you guys doing? It's gonna take a second for you guys to actually like be live with me, but you know, I can kind of ramble on for a minute. I'm on the right channel, right? Yeah, yeah, I am live. There we go. Hi, how are you guys doing? I need to finish up on this painting, and in order to do that, that means a lot of arcade streams this week, with a possible like I just finish something else, like work on a different painting that might be a little bit less involved, because this one's a bit of a titan. It's big, it has lots of detail. It may be entirely possible that I don't finish it in time, and so instead of not finishing it, I may on like Thursday or so start a new painting, depending on how well it goes today. So I'm gonna do like 2 hours or so a stream until this runs out of battery and all that, and then I'll switch off. There's a thing apparently I can get where it hooks the battery up to the wall, and then there's another thing that allows me to hook the camera up to the up to my computer so I could stream with it, which means that you guys would be getting arcade streams in 1080p, which is, you know, a little bit excessive, but to be honest with you, it is a nice little bonus that I could just have the files saved automatically. But anyway, I'm rambling. In order to prevent the same song from being played every single time, I'm going to actually start with the Kevin MacLeod stuff again, like I did the other day. I worked a little bit on playing or writing a new song today, but I don't know. We might work on that while I'm transferring files over. But anyway, we're going to do this one again. And then that's the back of my chair. And way too low. You good there? It's a little bit off center. Try and get you guys adjusted so it doesn't look all jacked on your screen. The new thing I got is actually super nice. A new song, yeah, these songs are done by Kevin MacLeod, but the song I use on like almost every video is one I wrote, and I've been using it for basically a year now, and that's a little bit annoying. How are the audio levels? Is this okay? Hopefully so. Herman is out and about, so hopefully he's a good boy and doesn't, like, you know, cause issues. But if he does, then we'll can him and put him up. Yeah, it's this painting again. It's a long painting, so it's causing me problems. Not so much problems, but it's just like it's a fairly detailed painting. So we're gonna be at it for a while. I'm gonna do the fleshy cheese strat again. Plus I kind of decided that I need to stream like twice a week anyway, in order for me to get this channel up to snuff. And this is a good way to do it. And I'll do a little bit of it off stream later. I made a deal with myself. If I do this, then I can feel okay about going and doing something that's like frivolous and doesn't progress my career any. And it's like, I'll make that deal with myself. Like, I won't feel bad about it. I won't feel bad when I'm going to sleep and all that. I have to make deals like with that with myself, or else it just doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if anyone's got that level of neuroticism as well. But I definitely do. But while we're waiting for the files to transfer, I might try writing a little bit on stream if you guys want to listen to that. I just noticed that the dude's head is a little bit wonky, so I'm just going to fix that. It's actually darker on that side than it is the other side, but I think it's mostly because of his hair. And thank you. Herman does not need to paint. He does not need to be involved in the painting process. I love him, but that's why he doesn't need to be involved in the painting process. Actually, I don't need to really do that. I'm really doing that for no reason. How's it going, Limit? I need to get a lavalier mic as well. I don't even know where I'd get one of those. Like a good one. There's a camera shop in town. I'm gonna probably go and try and find that stuff there. And that should make the quality of these streams, in addition to that other thing, a lot better. So, I might have to do that here soon, just to improve these streams a bit. Because, I don't know, to a certain extent, audio and visual quality doesn't matter too much, but it matters to the point that, like, people actually see it and care, you know what I mean? I bought myself this really nice metal pan for mixing paint on rather than using the, like, paper. And I left it, like, the paint on there for, like, a couple of days. And it dried out, and I washed it off this morning, and it all came off, like, without any trouble. It's, like, one of the best investments I've made in a while. I think it was, like, a whopping somewhere around, like, $10 or something like that. It's really nice. I think I could have probably saved even more had I gotten it from, like, I don't know, like a kitchen supply store rather than, like, Michael's. Is it Michael's or Joann's? I don't remember. One of the two. They're the only art stores I go to in town aside from Jerry's. And I know it wasn't Jerry's, because I just didn't have a chance. I think I've decided that I'm going to probably do you think art has to have a set objective from the start? Me personally, yes. For my own personal sanity, there has to be, like, an objective and all that, but I don't think that there are any rules in art that I could say that are objectively true across every single person who's ever done art. So, in that case, no. But with the caveat that I personally think you ought to. It's, like, almost green at parts on this. Like, more in the shadowy areas, so I'll just paint it, like, a little bit greenish over here. Like a blue-green. It's mixed, like, the raw sienna, or however you pronounce that, with just the cobalt blue that I use on everything. And that should do the trick. I understand that, like, the things that I do and the path that I've set for myself is not the same as everyone else's. And furthermore, like, whatever I say and whatever I think is not necessarily the be-all, end-all. So in that respect, like, though I don't really like art that doesn't seem to have a direction when it starts, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. It just means that my opinion is that I don't like it. But I also recognize, I mean, it's one of the main philosophies of my life is that, like, everyone has their own way to accomplish whatever goals, and as long as it's not, like, detracting directly from something that you're trying to do, then there really isn't any harm of it, especially if it helps to accomplish some goal. It comes a lot from, like, you know, when I used to do protests and stuff, there would be, like, people who were really strict and trying to, like, regiment how everyone else acted and how everyone else did the protest. But that always ended up failing, and what ended up working was when we left everyone to their own devices. As long as they just, you know, weren't violent, it was fine, you know? Like, whatever you want to do. Like, if you want to show up in a bunny costume, that's fine because, you know, diversity of tactics is what's going to get the job done. And so I've come to see that whole idea of diversity of tactics as something that not only applies to like protests but just life, that while, you know, my methods for making the world a better place may be different than someone else's, like a doctor may actually like you know, do medical stuff and be like helpful in that way. The ways that I try and help people, the ways that I try and make the world a better place don't involve that, and it is equally valid for that to be a path that I take to try and help people. You know, for some people they need to see us shrink, for some people they just need a good time, and for those people who can't or don't want to see us shrink, then, you know, that I can be that for them without it expressly being a thing where I'm providing psychiatric help, you know? As far as what I protested about, some of it is somewhat divisive and people wouldn't care to hear about it. The stuff that isn't divisive, or the stuff that, like, I don't feel like anyone would, well, the stuff that's not as divisive, I guess I should say, was like, you know, gay rights and setting up a women's shelter, because the city of Austin has a really bad setup when it comes for, like, taking care of the homeless. Basically, like, you get a lottery number, and if you get in the lottery, you get to stay in the shelter. But if you're a woman, you have to be there with a dude in order to prevent any sort of liability that, you know, the shelter has for protecting you, which is really just dumb system, and it's fairly common as far as shelters go across the nation, as far as I understand. So what we did is we set up a network of churches and stuff that would provide shelter for women, so that way they wouldn't have to sleep on the streets where it is just objectively more dangerous for them. I feel like those kind of things are just like the other stuff, like, that I did, some people may have issues with, and I've found that although art is political, my job as an entertainer is to not be political. So I'll talk about those things, but as for right now, I think the winning play, the thing I should do with this, well, with just me as, you know, a person that creates content for you guys, is to not talk about the more divisive stuff, the stuff that, you know, some of you may disagree with, because as I've said previously, you know, I have very different political opinions than JonTron. I think most people do. But I learned a lesson from him espousing his incredibly extreme beliefs, and how it really negatively impacted how people enjoyed his content. You know, you can't just enjoy JonTron anymore. Or some people can't, and for those people, he's failed as a entertainer, you know? As far as art goes, artists are supposed to be political. Just inherently, art has always been political, because it was originally used as a way of communicating ideas, and then it was used by, you know, the church and by governments to, like, establish that what they're talking about is important. And then, you know, people used it to talk about life and its struggles, and when you talk about life, you end up, you know, putting out opinions, philosophical or otherwise. So, and I don't believe that religion or philosophy can ever be separated from politics. So, if you have a philosophy in your work, it can't be separated from politics. And art is basically just you talking about your philosophy, whatever that happens to be, even if it happens to be that you don't have any particular philosophy when it comes to your art, which is fine. So it's like that game, or that movie, what was it, War Games, where the robot says the only winning move is not to play. I think that's the trick here. But that being said, not having stances is tantamount to having a stance, and so where's that line? I also heard recently, and this is sort of, I feel like this is something I can talk about, talking about social media and its impact, and how, because social media tries to curate content based on what you like, it curates echo chambers. And so if you're leaning one way or another, not only will you lean, you know, that way, but social media will force you further and further towards that direction. You can't just be like kind of middle of the road. There's not really a centrist thing anymore. Well, thank you. It needs a little bit of love, but it's getting there. So it's just like, I feel like politics are even more divisive than ever because of that, but I feel like it's also just human nature, and it's being able to communicate with someone who would normally be outside of your friendship bubble. It's partially the anonymity, you know? I haven't been recording this entire time. I'm an idiot. That's my cheeky way of making it look like I did all of that in like 2 strokes. And when it's sped up, you won't be able to notice that. But that's frustrating. I'm recording now, right? Yeah, okay. Cool. So, I don't know. Plus, all the music that I've ever listened to has been political, you know? Like, that's just what metal is. Some people take the rhetoric one way rather than the other. And treat some of the stuff that's said as more, I don't know. Metal, in a lot of ways, is about being true to yourself, whatever that happens to be, and not pretending like everything's sunshine and roses when it's not, and allowing yourself to be angry. Or happy, or sad, or just a party when it's time to party. What have you, but like to still address things that are important. It came out of punk music in a lot of ways. I mean, I feel like I wear my politics very much on my sleeve. I mean, I just said I disagree with JonTron. And if that doesn't give you any idea of what kind of stuff that I think and believe, then go ahead and just listen to JonTron for a minute. I disagree with him on, like, everything he said. Like, that's a fairly firm political stance nowadays. It's funny because, you know, some people in chat are saying, I think, you know, Vinesauce as a whole is too, it tries too hard to remain apolitical, and there's an argument that can be made there, but also anytime I mention anything political on stream, it goes immediately into, like, I get emails, I get, like, threats, and just people being angry that I have an opinion that's not theirs. So it's just like, it's why I decided against making that why Prager University is wrong video. That, and I don't know how I could make it without using clips from their video, and they'd probably copyright strike it. And plus it's just sort of disputing not even facts. What they're saying is not even what one could consider a fact. Like, and I'm talking about, like, a logical fact where, like, it can be argued. It's just, like, an opinion that, or just, like, a blatantly untrue statement. And then it's presented as a fact. And so, like, you're supposed to be able to, like, you know, have a discussion with that, but, like, if you just say something, like, random, like, I don't know, chipmunks have 18 legs, it's just like, that's objectively not true. And they're like, you don't want to believe in that. You don't want to see the evidence. There's just no point in, like, debunking that. Like, it's just, like, objectively untrue statements said for several minutes in a tone that makes it seem like they have some sort of authority in what they're talking about. So it's just like, I mean, I get, like, threats and stuff like that for pretty much everything and anything I do. So it's not anything new with politics, but I used to talk about politics way more on stream, and it was to the point that people would get mad about it and message me on a fairly constantly to tell me to shut up. So it's I feel like I'm trying to think of how artists in the past have done it, you know, like addressing someone like, you know, Salvador Dali, right? So he was a, you know, artist in, like, basically when World War II was going on, right? And one of the critiques that people have had of him, and his friends had of him at the time, was that he was not outspoken enough against Hitler. So it's just like, but I would see him almost in a very similar light, that he was an entertainer in a lot of ways as much as he was an artist. Like, if you've ever seen any video clips of him, he's not just standing there being stoic or whatever. He's trolling people constantly, you know? So I guess a page could be taken from his book, but then also you can take the lesson that could be learned there, that he basically didn't say anything against Hitler, and now we know Hitler is super bad, and that was something we knew then, but he arguably didn't say enough. But then he had works where he was making fun of him. So it's like, what's the right move there? Probably to say Hitler's bad. That seems right. But it's easy to see in retrospect to do that, but then, you know, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that if I were to make a separate channel for ideology and to talk about politics, it would be this one, because that's just inherently a part of art in a lot of ways. I need a smaller brush. That brush was pretty bad. I should actually probably be using a gray for this. And then add in highlights later. So I think that's what I'll do. And then I need to fix this leg because I made it like super thick. Maybe I should do some research into Salvador Dali and see what his thing was. Because I've watched some documentaries on him, but I'd be interested to find out like that intersection of like him and politics. Well, no, what I'm saying is that an entertainer's job is to entertain, to get you away from the troubles and the worries of the world, so that way you can have a moment respite, so that way you can have something enjoyable in your life for when it sucks. But an artist's job is to do pretty much the opposite of that. And so it's like these two parts of myself that I want to represent, but are directly at conflict at each other. Generally speaking, the conflicts that exist outside of that, I have no issues with fixing. For instance, here I'm supposed to, or I feel like what I want this channel to be is to be chill and low energy and just kind of like relaxing and, you know, something to put on while you're trying to sleep or while you're trying to, you know, do art yourself. And you can do that to some degree with the, you know, streams, the video game streams. But they're there to be more energetic and more high octane, more what have you. So that's easy. That's not a problem. Like, they fill the role that the other doesn't, and therefore I can be a complete human being. But that's the only conflict I've seen, really. I would classify musicians as artists. But in the same way that there's a lot of pop art where there's, you know, like you talk about like, oh, what was that Warhol one where it's, of, what's her name? The girl, and then like her skirt goes up because she goes over her grate. I forget her name. Marilyn Monroe? There we go. It's a print of a picture of Marilyn Monroe playing a character all in a movie, but her name really isn't Marilyn Monroe. Like, I forgot what Marilyn Monroe's real, like, birth name was, but what he was trying to do, and I'm not a huge fan of Andy Warhol, but what he was trying to do is, like, which one's the what of this is the real person, you know? Is it the actress, or is it the role? Is it the actress? Is it Marilyn Monroe and her stage persona? Is it Marilyn Monroe, the actual human being whose name isn't Marilyn Monroe and I forget her actual name? Or is it that it's a, you know, print of that, which is a repetition of another image and so on and so forth? Like, but like, I feel like that's such a boring and useless thing to argue about. Norma Jane Morterson. There you go. I feel like pop music falls into a very similar spot. I don't really like listening to like love songs. Like that just... I love my fiance. Don't get me wrong. But that's like not... I don't know. That's not... I don't really know how to explain that. That's not the only emotion I wish to express in my entire life. And actually, it turns out that that's part of the window there. I'll fix it. And it goes like right to his back there. Actually needs, all of this needs to be scooted over a bit, like that away. That's what I'm looking forward to, or looking for, Android, is something to listen to while you're doing art. And so, I guess what could be done is I can do things that are, you know, political and all that, but like, so for instance, there's a tradition in, I believe it's Chinese woodblocks, might be Japanese. I apologize for not knowing this. That it was during a time where there was like some dictator. It was like, I got barely passing grades in art history, as an aside. Anyway, so in order to like symbolize what they wanted to symbolize without being censored by the government, they would use bamboo shoots to represent like the tenacity and unwillingness to surrender of the people, because it was something that the invading army didn't understand and didn't see the symbolism of, but yet anyone originally from that area was well aware of that symbolism, and so they could get away with just having these fairly mundane wood blocks of bamboo that really did speak to something else entirely. Pollock's thing was about movement in space, and so there wasn't much politic behind it. But again, I don't really care for his work. The stuff that I have found myself gravitating towards, as far as art goes, usually involves some sort of spiritual or political belief behind it. Like, Goya. Like, a majority of his stuff was a critique of the Spanish hierarchy and, like, how, like, they just left the people to just rot and didn't do anything about it, and then they'd squelch rebellions and they'd be, like, horrible, nasty people to their people. And he essentially got kicked out of his job of being a court painter because he made fun of the king and queen. He made them look like just commoners, when, you know, you're supposed to paint them all regal and, you know, nice and all that. Instead, he just kind of painted the queen to look like it was either a queen or some sort of, like, thing like that, to be just sort of like kind of a frumpy looking woman. And you don't make the queen look frumpy, or the, you know, heiress, or whatever her political thing was. And so he got kicked out for it, and almost killed in the Inquisition, if I recall correctly. It's a little bit better, but then I need to fix that up there. No worries, Inkblot. How you doing? Well, I feel like the viewpoint of modern movies is it's sometimes in conflict with like the cultural zeitgeist at the time. Like, you see a lot of dystopian movies and stuff because we feel very unsure about how we are and how we're doing, at least in America, and have been for a few years now. And I feel like that's part of it. You see nihilism taking off. It says something about the culture to see what succeeds, because if you make a feel-good movie and the nation's in turmoil, everyone hates it, like, everyone is, like, in a constant state of panic. A feel-good, like, movie just has some cognitive, like, dissonance with the people, like, watching it. They don't feel like it relates to them. That's why, like, during times of war, you have, especially in, like, World War II, you saw, like, a huge, like, burst of cowboy movies and stuff, because we saw ourselves as protectors of the, you know, the world, we were the cowboys walking in. Solving the problems, you know? But you see how cowboy movies change as soon as, like, Vietnam comes around and we start to see ourselves as, you know, maybe not doing the right thing there. The nation seems to, like, have a backlash against that. Like, this guy rides into town, doesn't know the situation, he's got his own thing going on, but he solves the situation for those idiot town folk. Like, it says something about, like, how the nation saw itself at that time, because we could identify with that hero in a lot of ways. But you notice, like, after a while, the movies change, and then that guy ends up, you know, dying at the end of the movie more often, you know? I mean, yeah, definitely if you lose all the art and soul of it, if you're just making it for a buck, like, yeah, it's not going to work for that reason either, but, you know. I feel like I was answering a different question than what you asked or what you were discussing, but it's something that's been kind of floating in my mind for the last little bit. Again, a conversation a little too heavy for a stream where I'm, like, flipping cars and discussing the newest, greatest memes of the day. I like listening to stuff about philosophy. I like listening to stuff like that. And, yeah. I think I need to fix the floor, because I don't think I'll be happy until I do. Because that's taking up a good chunk of the painting. And, like, this section of the painting's starting to come along, but I just need to get, like, this area, because this is a fairly big blob. And then if I start working in the people, things will start coming together. But a decent chunk of this painting is the floor, and the floor doesn't look right. I feel like people can feel when something's, like, just a cynical whatever or grab bag, and that it doesn't matter, and that it's not important. This brush is all dried out. I need to clean it, because look at that. Look at that brush stroke. It's awful. I hate it. Alright, we're going to use a different brush. How about this one? You better? You're less like... Okay, you're better. I just let my brushes get like that. They get all gross and dried out, and then I can't do anything with them, and it's like, well... Guess I'll go buy another brush. I wonder if the reason that animated films have been kind of crappy recently is because there's such an expense to, like, animate, especially if it's traditional 2D, that it's almost not worth it, and that you have to make a safe bet in order to recoup the costs because of how just extreme the costs are on that. Like, on a movie, like a traditional film movie, you can just, like, I don't know. I feel like movies like, The Terminator and, Alien, I feel like those 80s, like, kind of movies were they fit what people were feeling at the time, you know? In the same way that, like, a cowboy movie worked, you know, when we were in World War II, but doesn't now. Unless if you make it much more cynical and much more, like, you have to take the genre and flip it on its head. You can't just do a cowboy movie where the cowboy comes into town and solves the townspeople's problems anymore. It's just too... It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel natural. It's not what people think reality is anymore. And so that movie just doesn't make sense. But I feel like movies like The Terminator and like Alien could work, but they'd have to make it so that way, like, you know, it wouldn't have to be playing lip service to the original. Like, I feel like if they're gonna do that, they need to do like an original sort of thing in the vein of those kind of movies. And that's why I feel like those movies don't work now, is because they're hitting the story beats, but they're not doing it right. Like, I have no interest in seeing the new Predator movie. I just don't care. It's new Star Wars, but old plot. Yeah. But I feel like it works. I guess that's an example where it works a little bit better. But it's just because Star Wars is still a relevant story to tell. Also, the music is super loud on me, and I don't know about y'all's. What do you think a bad objective of his art is? I guess that's a good way of thinking about it, because a good one would be the opposite of that, right? But again, I don't feel like I can answer that, because that's me saying that this is the way that art needs to be. And I found that if you know anything about art history, what constantly keeps happening is that some dude comes along with his friends, and they're like, those old curmudgeons from way back in the day, they don't understand the will of the people anymore. They don't understand what it's right to be like the average working man, and what it's like to live in this current century. Like, I'll show them with this paint that I'm gonna put on a canvas or whatever. And then it's just like, just incoherent garbage in like 10 years at times. I think fluffy little unimportant sort of video games, movies, that kind of thing are valid in their attempt to do what they're trying to do. Art is fine for the sake of art, you know? If the point of your art is literally just to make something pretty and nice, I feel like that is a relevant pursuit of art. That makes sense. That's a reason to do art, you know? Just as valid as, you know, having some sort of political statement. I guess that's where that line between entertainer and artist blends. It's what you intend on achieving in your thing there. In fact, that's inherently how I can argue something like Call of Duty is art. It's not, it's art in the same way that the Coca-Cola art, like, logo is art, you know? Like, it's not really saying anything important. Like, I don't feel like anyone's like, man, I'm a different human being now that I've played Call of Duty 15, you know? I'm gonna see the world as a different place now that I've played the newest Call of Duty. You know? No one does that. It's not the point of that. That's not the point of that game at all. It's vapid entertainment that's meant to be just enjoyed at surface level. And that's fine, you know? It's not... I think people, like, assume art has to be, like, deep and provocative and has to be, like, this thing that really sticks with you. But, like, I feel like that also limits what art can be. I would say, like, you know, sometimes you gotta pander in order to, like, survive as an artist. Like, I get that, but, like, yeah, maybe just pandering for the sake of pandering. Like, if you're doing it for the fame, I feel like that's a dumb reason to do art, personally. So I guess if you want a reason, like, I feel like doing art for the sake of becoming rich and famous is a dumb reason to do art. Like, there's other ways of becoming rich and famous that don't involve this level of precision and work ethic and just time and all of that, that really just, you don't need to do this. You could go do something else. Yeah, James at Games, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, it's the gaming version of Baywatch or, like, 90210. Like, it's like fruit gushers to a well-cooked meal, you know? When you consider it food, technically it is. You could eat gushers. It will not provide very good sustenance to you, you know? You're not going to, like, be healthier because of it. You'll survive. Like, you could live on gushers for a while. Like, they have vitamins. But, like, I wouldn't recommend gushers as a main source of, like, food. It doesn't solve the food problems that you've got if you're eating exclusively gushers. What weird dystopian world you do live in where you have to eat gushers in order to survive exclusively? I don't know, but hypothetically, that's what it's like to... That's what Call of Duty is, or what Baywatch is in a lot of ways. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, making that kind of stuff, like surface level enjoyable content that, like, doesn't have any lasting deep impact, you know? That's fine. That's a thing that needs to happen. If everything was deep, you know, stuff that we have to think about and that we have to, like, really work on and really, like, crunch our teeth into in order to, like, enjoy, just entertainment would be monotonous and really annoying. And, like, sometimes, just go out and say it, sometimes the belief or the thing that we're trying to, like, communicate with art is kind of dumb. Like, the person hasn't lived a life worthy of talking about, and then they're trying to espouse these views that don't resonate or connect with anyone, you know? And I feel like that's how some artists fail, is like they don't have the world experience in order to be able to be an artist, because nothing they say or do connects with anyone. And so it's just sort of like this weird thing that you've done. A lot of rich people art nowadays, I think, is that. Where it's just like... And I guess this is me being a guy shaking my fist at the old curmudgeons of the previous generation, saying that they're doing it wrong. But, I don't feel like it lands with anyone, you know? Well, thank you, Vinehart. Make political art now. I feel like, in ways, outside of, like, the arcade ones where it's like this, I've done that. But, like, it's in a similar way to the bamboo that I was talking about earlier. It's perhaps too well coded for anyone aside from me to, like, get the reference. Like, a lot of the time when I'm streaming or when I'm just doing art or just being myself in real life, I just end up saying things, you know? Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I just want a dumb movie. Like, I love having, like, something that I can think about and really like digest and have something really like impactful, like that shapes my being and makes me a slightly better person, I like that kind of stuff. I like listening to that kind of stuff. I like reading that kind of stuff. But I also like just playing like CSGO sometimes. You know? CSGO does not make me a better person. It doesn't, like, you know, when I play something like Warhammer, I'm not like, I don't know. I don't think that they're like, I guess you could argue there are deep philosophical points to both Counter-Strike and Warhammer, especially Warhammer. People have been trying to argue the meaning and all of that behind Warhammer for years. It's a dystopian sci-fi, you know, like it's all the things that sci-fi should in being dystopian. You know, you need to show in sci-fi, you need to show what people are like by taking them outside of the experience that you're used to and putting them in a new experience that, like, is still relatable. And the reason it's still relatable is because you understand what humans are like. Thank you, Jess. So, in that way, yeah, if you want to make a swords and sorcery sort of thing, just make something enjoyable. Like, not everything has to be a freaking political statement when it comes to stuff. You can have just a trashy, like, thing that's just enjoyable for the sake of it being enjoyable. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make it any lesser because it fills that niche. Alright, now did that make it any better? That made it a little bit better. What if you could play that, what could you play that would make you feel more fulfilled artistically? Gaming is still as the everything is fun okay, so, there are examples of this, but I feel like they're the ones that are always trotted out as being, like, the game that's, like, super philosophical and all of that, and so, like, Spec Ops: The Line, you know, it's just the Heart of Darkness, but it uses the mechanics of the game to be artistic. I feel like a lot of indie games try and do this, but, like, again, it's the same thing as the problem I have with, like, rich people art, as I'm gonna call it, in that, like, it just... I don't understand what they're trying to communicate, you know? Like, it doesn't resonate with me in some of those, but, like, the Heart of Darkness, or, you know, Spec Ops: The Line, I feel like has that. That's a good example of one. Trying to think of some other ones. It is definitely more the everything is fun, and you're supposed to, like, feel emotion. Every now and then it'll just smack you with, here's emotion, feel it. That's how games are designed. Everything is fun except for this moment where you're supposed to feel something. Feel something. We're just gonna put a sign up on the screen that says feel a thing. It's because I think a lot of video game creators are still trying to treat themselves as movie makers and not, you know, video game makers, where you can have the mechanics match the narrative and have it all connect in together. Like, when you have those where it's like you make a decision and, well, okay, Soma is, I guess, another one where you can talk about, like, what is consciousness, and it does that by making you make choices based on things that affect the game mechanically, rather than just like, here's where you're supposed to think now turn off your brain and go shoot things for like 10-20 minutes, and then we'll go back to thinking again. Like, Spec Ops had we're going to shoot things for like 20 minutes, and then we'll be back to that. But what's different about Spec Ops is that, like, it made fun of you and gave you crap about being a murderous genocidal, like, maniac, really, you know? And that's what made that game successful, where it could have just been another by-the-numbers short game. Not only is the main character, a bad guy, but you are for continuing to play it. That's what they're trying to point out in that game. And it's kind of a bold thing to go, if you buy our game and you actually play it to completion, you're an awful human being. Like, I have some problems with the way that was done, but, you know, I see what they were going for anyway. We're still recording, right? Okay, we are. I've had a couple of slip-ups with this painting where stuff didn't get recorded. And it's going to be hopefully not too noticeable when it's at, like, 3,000 frames per second, but, you know. I feel like some people felt like there was, like, a really, like... Undertale did that to a different degree. It mixed, like, what you're supposed to be feeling emotionally with, what was going on mechanically, you know? So in a way, I feel like, that's part of the reason that Undertale did so well, is that, I mean, like, some of the characters, like, I don't know, were kind of flat, but, like, it was a cohesive story that, like, did what it did and didn't, like, it didn't have that cognitive dissonance where you walk away from a situation and then it doesn't matter. Like, whatever just happened doesn't matter and you can just do things. Like, we need you to, you know, go in there and solve the situation, and then you don't, but, like, I don't know, I've heard, I'm trying to think of a game where, another game aside from Spec Ops that it did it really well. Another game where I felt an emotional connection to it. Bastion was good. It had a little bit of a dissonance issue, but, like, Bastion hit me at a part of my life where I needed to hear exactly that story, you know? Like, there were people that were actively hostile to me, that, like, were fighting for their own goals and needs and all of that, and I don't know. How you doing? I don't know how to pronounce your name, but hey. Metal Gear? I don't really know what is going on in Metal Gear, to be honest with you, most of the time. You could say something like BioShock is. It's like commentary on, you know, in the first one it's commentary on Ayn Rand, and the second one it's and objectivism. And the second one is commentary on, like, I guess it's communism? I haven't played either, really, so I don't know. I've just heard that, like, people have made that argument, and that's apparently not what the developers were going for, despite the fact that that just seems like it was what they were going for. But again, it's another situation where you're just big dude shoot gun. Like, I don't know as if it really, like, hit the mark. I really liked, Shadow of the Colossus. That's another good one. Where, like, your actions were relevant to the needs and wants of both you as a player and as the character. That worked. there's like a table here, and I'm trying to fussing around with it. I'm adding yellow so that way it like has that shimmer that wood has. It's just causing me trouble to no end. I've also got this like little hazy line where I need to like paint up to it, and I think that means that I need to go get some more paint and stop messing around with this color that I am. So, I don't know. There was a tweet on Twitter. Surprisingly, it was a tweet on Twitter that it was someone who's like, I really wish you could just take a second to look around in some of these games because there's just some beautiful stuff happening, like artistically, but you can't see it because you keep getting shot at. That's kind of part of the reason that this channel exists. I said it in response to that. I feel like a discussion about whether or not video games are art can be had while still admitting that some games are the equivalent of Baywatch and just don't really have anything important to say. Like, in the same way that you go and see something like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a contemporary movie, but I just don't like watching movies. Just don't really interest me. It's because I'm ADD, I think. I just can't sit still that long. I have to be, like, fussing around with, like, something. There has to be something going on to my hands. Probably also just because I have bad habits, but, you know. When I say video games are art, I say it with the understanding that the Coca-Cola logo is art, technically, as well. They're serving certain purposes, and sometimes those purposes are really boring. I got a fidget cube. It's around here somewhere. Here it is. Yeah, I got my little, like, dealy bopper. So I got one. I just forget to bring it with me. Yeah, that's the same way I am. It's why I became a streamer on Vinesauce, was because I was literally looking for someone streaming so I'd have background noise. So that way I could, you know, do art. And I saw a post on 4chan V, and I was like, yeah, alright. I'll watch this dude. And that was Vinny. Like, I went to go watch Vinny not because, like, he was the most successful, most popular streamer out there. In fact, when I started watching him, he had, like, maybe 10 viewers, like, on a good night. But I needed some background noise, so that sufficed. Needing background noise has been a fairly, like, consistent thing in my life for that reason. It's kind of what I'm saying, Nilardin. Is that if we're talking about capital A art, there's some games that aren't, but, you know, also there are some movies that aren't capital A art. A kid's, like, crayon drawing is art. The newest Call of Duty game is art. Alright, so this is actually taking up considerably less space than I'm giving it credit for. It's actually much lower down, so I need to actually get rid of the door color that color, and I need to get some door color. And the door is actually pretty close to that. It's like, how did I get that? That's like, what, green? That's green. As I'm going along with this painting, things are like shifting ever so slightly. I think it's like a little bit of raw sienna. Yeah, there it is. I think that's right. Yeah. See, and then that needs to go up to like there. I mean, that's not the right color, but I'm gonna paint over it in just a second. I just want to make sure that I've got that in place. And then this needs to go up more here, because that's part of the dude's chair. Or it's like the shadow from his chair goes up here. That's what this shadow is him and the desk and the whatever. I'm a sucker for contrast, so like, you know, high contrast stuff is gonna be a thing in everything I do, but Edward Hopper is probably who you're thinking. I need like a couple more coats of this color, because I feel like this is the right color, but that paint that I'm using is super thin, so it doesn't quite work. But it's starting to get there. It's starting to get into the right area. Alright, so how far down does this desk go then? It's like... Does it go all the way down to here? Is it... What is it in line with? Let's see. That goes all the way to there. So actually, the desk needs to end here-ish. It needs to take up considerably less room. I'll probably sculpt that down a little bit on the other side as well. Your parents have a few Edward Hopper prints. That's crazy. Like, legit ones? That's awesome. I'm a huge fan of his. Tilda got me a book of his, for Christmas. I think it was Christmas. I'll look at it every now and then. Again, having, like, things that you look at artistically, helps. Because otherwise, you're not going to know what to do with yourself. It's okay to take inspiration from other work. I mean, as long as you're not, like, outright ripping it off, you're fine. It's funny how this is almost exactly the same color as the door color in the shadow, but it's not. It's like, this is a little bit more red than, I guess, the other side, because there's a little bit more green in the other one, or a little bit more yellow, which makes it more green. Speaking of contrast, any tips on value? Value is one of those things that needs to be considered as part of the whole rather than like an individual thing. I need to have a video explicitly on framing and composition, but I mean this one does not do a great job of it, but like depending on like which way you want to do it, whether or not it's like the rule of thirds, or if you want to do it with the Fibonacci sequence or what have you, you're going to use you're asking my opinion, so I'm going to give that. You use one of those, and then you use value in order to deaden certain areas, you know, make them darker, have the grays and everywhere else, and then have the highlight points, the points that are supposed to be important in whatever construction pattern you're using, to be more bright and more vivid, so that way it pops more. And then you have other things, like if you want to have things focused towards a certain point. So for instance, this painting focuses a lot towards Teemo in the back, but these guys are also important because they're pretty much straight in the center, like this dude specifically, and he is facing that guy who's facing him, so that creates some tension right here, and so on and so forth. But that works. You look at him because of the light coming down from the top, and I'm going to use this color over here to make this area super not important. You kind of don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. It gets to be intuition. It gets to be just like a thing you do, and not something you actively think about. I had to kind of like think about it there for a second on why this is working for me. And that's the reason, is because the values complement the construction of the painting. I'm going to bump things up and, you know, subtract things out based on my needs as an artist versus the needs of a game, in order to present something that, like, is a little bit more high contrast. Like, make the darks darker and the lights lighter. And that way it just pops more. And it's just more visually appealing to me. Trying to decide whether or not I want to do 2 art streams today. Once I run out of battery, I'm going to have to stop. Once I get done with the film cartridge, then we'll have to stop, and I can do stuff for a minute, like entertain you guys. And then we'll go back to that for like, because I figured like the camera's card has about an hour and 30 minutes worth of footage, so we're actually coming close to that point. It's probably going to be a little bit longer because I forgot to hit play originally today, so it'll probably be closer to the 1 hour 40 minute mark. And then from there we can transfer the files over. I can work on writing some music, and then I have another 30 minutes worth of battery. And then it just shuts off completely, and then I have to wait several hours for it to go. So if I do multiple art streams, that's how it's going to be structured today, based on the battery getting recharged. I feel like I have enough content on After Hours for a couple of days, and I need to keep my promises that I make to my patrons on Patreon. You know, I have to keep the subs on Twitch happy, and I have to keep the patrons on Patreon happy, which means that I got to do enough of both. I streamed yesterday, and I did Flash game stream, and I did a Minecraft stream with Mike, and both of which are a huge draw, and they make people who like my Twitch streams and my YouTube stuff happy. So I'm probably okay. Well, thank you, Patty. You hear that click? We're getting into the last few minutes here. Eventually the file size gets too big in one single go that the card just shuts off, or the camera just shuts off, and this is a little bit too small, isn't it? Oh, did I make this way too small? Perhaps. There's a little bit more floor. There's like a triangle floor right there. Just use like this tan here for a second to sculpt out that angle and figure out what that is. But I think I took too much out. I think it needs to be there instead, so then this line needs to go that way. And then that way there's just a little bit of a lip. It needs to go out more. So you need to be able to see the edge of the table. The edge of the table is like, it has to have at least that much room. So if we connect it up like that, then I think that's right there. I think that's right. Okay. I've been noticing something in my life recently, and I want to talk about it just for the sake of something to talk about for the next 30 minutes or so until the battery, or until the card fills entirely. But I've been noticing something I heard about recently, that there's a name for that feeling that like things are going well, so that means things are about to go bad. That fear, there's a name for that. The fear of like good things. Because inevitably that would mean that something bad's gonna happen, because that's how life has to work for some reason. Anyway, I've been having a bit of the opposite of that recently. Like, I feel like things that I can perceive as being bad things happen, and then, but because that bad thing happens, it means that I can do something good. I don't know as if there's a name for that. So recently it's been like, I've been able to roll with the punches a lot better. Because I've been noticing that pattern that like a good thing is happening almost every single time because a bad thing happens, you know? I'm having a hard time thinking of any examples that I can tell you guys about, but like, so here's the thing. My boss, well, one of my bosses, the assistant store manager, decided to take a job at another place as a manager. And in doing so, that means that I'm going to get more hours at my 9 to 5. I don't want more hours. I want, you know, 8 to 20. Because that way I can have some stability in case if things go stupid on YouTube. And I've been spending most of this year trying to make sure that I'm not dependent on YouTube anymore, because YouTube's stupid, and the idiocy of someone like Logan Paul can cause me incredible problems, even though I have nothing to do with it. Anyway, that initially seemed like a bad thing. But, then, because of that, we're going to get a new store, assistant store leader, manager person, And the person we're getting is a lot more competent than my current one. Which means that they are willing to and wanting to take more hours. So because he left, I'm gonna have to do less work when I'm at work and come into work less often. A lot of things have been going like that recently for me. That, like, initially it seems like a really bad thing, you know? How long will I be streaming? Probably just over 2 hours because of my battery life on my camera. And then I might come back and do a second one. Yeah, I feel like that's been happening a lot to me. Like these... Here's another one. So I do this, like, weekly game called Kill Team. We're doing, like, a campaign of it. So I come in and... you play a match against a guy, and then you record the results, and depending on what your results are, depends on how things go in the campaign, and so on and so forth. And eventually some people will run out of resources for their armies, etc., etc. So missing a week is kind of bad. But, you know, I don't ask off for it for work because, like, it's one day and I already want, like, so few hours that I can't really, like, ask for that. And so I get scheduled the day and time that one of those is happening. And I'm like, you know, I can't complain. I can't be mad about it, you know? Because I didn't request it off, you know? But then, it turns out that the guy who organizes it is like, hey, a lot of people aren't going to be able to make it this week, so we're just gonna, we're gonna skip this week. We're gonna do it next week instead. Maybe it's just that I've been taking better care of myself, and so I don't see it as the other way around that things are happening. Maybe I've just been, like, better, like, treating myself, that, like, I can see good things as good things and actually like them for that, rather than just dwelling on all the bad things that happened. I don't know. But, whatever is causing this, I would like to know the answer, but I guess I don't need to as long as it keeps working. I'm just thankful for whatever is causing that to happen. Or for me to be able to see it in that light, anyway. This side of the painting is looking good. This side of the painting still looks like I've barely touched it. And it is because I've barely touched it. So let's touch it some. Touch, touch. It's actually a little bit more green. It's this color again. Is it like this? Not quite. Self-care is hard, but, I don't know. I don't really know how to do it right. Y'all deserve good things, too. Just inherently by being human, you do. I don't want to make it seem like I'm bragging about that things are going nice in my life. I'm just saying, like, I'm being pleasantly surprised in situations where I probably would have taken it super hard recently. And overall, I think it's made my outlook on life a lot better because of it. Well, I love y'all too. You guys need to take care of yourselves. I guess that's one reason for me to try and figure out, like, why things are working. Is that way I can just be like, the secret is this, do this, and your life problems will be solved, you know? All I know is if it's a mental shift in my own state, or if it's just that things have been, like, coincidentally going well for me. If it's a mental state that I've changed to, then it's something that I could give advice on. But if it's just that things have been going well for me, then it's like, well, the trick to happiness is having things go right. Well, good. I'm glad that that's the way it's being taken, Natalie. I'm just pleasantly surprised at the hand I'm being dealt recently. I should probably work out some. Randomly started reading about Taoism recently. Has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, really. Though I guess a Taoist would believe so. But it's a really interesting, like, concept. I don't really feel like I'm, like, I understand it well enough to be able to talk about it. And we're out of... Where are we at? 1:32. I was off by about 8 minutes. Okay. But the card is out of battery. Or out of space. Alright. I feel like it's coming along. That was a very productive hour and a half right there. Like, I feel like this corner is more or less right. I'm not totally happy with that color there. It needs to be brighter and more orange and less dingy and brown. This is looking good. That's looking good. Like, the over here is good, and then it starts, like, deteriorating the more and more you go over there. But I haven't really touched this side of the painting, so I'm alright with that. I'm gonna put up the BRB screen and then start transferring the files, I think. Give me a sec. And then I'll probably go to the bathroom real quick. There's the Patreon. There's the channel you're currently watching this on. I use the same BRB for this and Twitch, obviously. So, that doesn't do us any really good. You could go to Artcade to watch me do art, guys that are watching on Artcade. It also advertises other things like Twitch, I guess. Yeah. And I guess the stream thing doesn't work. That's weird, because it's like, oh, you could go to After Hours and watch a stream. It's like, that's not what you're watching, though. Wash your hands, I will. Alright. So I'm transferring the files over from my thing over to my computer. That's going to take, it says 14 minutes. I'm going to use 2 of that to go to the bathroom, and then we're going to work on doing some music. I will be right back. Enjoy the music that I didn't write. Having an arcade-specific BRB would be good. Here's the Fonz, anyway. Alright, I'm back. And after talking about gushers so much, I decided to go and get some. Look up. I feel like dancing games count as like workout. Do I want anyone to help with making Artcade BRB? I could just change which ones show up, you know? Like, a lot of these slides actually are relevant, you know? But anyway, according to the in-game calculator, you burned 1,620 calories? Jesus. That seems like a lot. I think the average is like 2,000, right? Anyway, while I'm waiting for these files to transfer over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and work on some music, because there's been some complaints that I've been using the same tracks repetitively, or same track, because I have. And I don't want that to be a sticking point. The entire point of that song is that it's just a not thing. So it's kind of fine, but when it's not fine, it's a problem. So I'm just gonna work on that a little bit. Unfortunately, it takes up the entire screen, so I can't really see chat for a minute. But I'm trying to pull it up on the other screen. There we go. Just a little bit quieter. Okay. I wrote some stuff the other day. It needs a lot of love. And so I'm just gonna bring it in, and then we're gonna try and make it into a thing. And at the same time, RevScarecrow Artcade. Bring out my laptop that was in the background for that entire stream. There we go. All right. You know what? Oh, I'm live right now. That's wonderful. I could go and watch myself being live right now. Let's go watch that. So that way I can actually read chat. That's what I meant to do. There we go. All right, cool. So anyway, can I do this? The main problem I'm having right now is that, like, I can't actually, can I make this screen bigger? Pop out chat. There we go. And I can just make the chat the whole screen. Perfect. Alright, so let's see. First things first, we need a decent, sound. Like a decent, Can I post a link? Sure. I don't know if it lets you. I really don't know how Twitch or YouTube monetization things or features work. But yeah, also I gotta put my glasses on, which feels weird to have on my computer, but you know. Let's see. Alright, so we need to have a good sound effect. We need to have good musics. That's, yeah. So we need, like, non-instruments. Like things that just sort of are there. So like, no, that's no, that's like do Seinfeld. Okay, that's no. Yeah, that could work. I'm gonna message you about that later. That's a good sound right there. Oh, that's the sound of my... Okay, cool. That's fine. Alright, so that one. I'm gonna get rid of this one. We don't need a snare or a hi-hat. And we'll probably... I'm gonna use the same, like, ASMR record play that I did before. Because... I don't know, that's just... The trick with this, the trick with writing this kind of music is that you're trying to not write actual music. You're trying to make like the semblance and structure of what sounds like a song, but not actually do it. So where is my like 10 hours of ASMR track? ASMR record. Yeah, ASMR vinyl cracking for 30 minutes. That should be long enough. I forget how long I need to make this. I think I need to make the song like 20 minutes long. If I make it 20 minutes long, then that removed the one thing. Oh, that's no good. Okay. All right. So insert harmless, and then is that additive warbly, additive warble, and then I can have the yeah, that sounds good. And then in the main track, we want to have, in the master thing, we want to have like some crazy... Well, we actually don't want the compression on that, do we? We want the compression on just the... So we don't want it on the ASMR, but we want it on everything else, I think. Let's see what it sounds like if we put some like crazy... Well, we want the compressor on it, but not the echo. Because the echo is going to sound weird with a record. Like, you expect there to be just the echo inherently with the record, so that's fine. I need to get some, like, rain sound effects. You're basically trying to pass the Eno test, music that is ignorable as it is. I didn't know what that was, but yeah, that sounds right. Alright, limiter. I'm looking for a limiter. And then we want to just like cut the so that way it doesn't come in all heavy when I come in. It doesn't blow your eardrums out when like a note starts, and it can kind of just be there. Am I gonna switch it so that way you can actually see it? Oh yeah, I guess I should. Enjoy looking at the back of my chair? Cool, good. Window. I guess this just should be a monitor capture, isn't it? Monitor capture, okay. Subregion, select region. There we go, that should work. Sorry, it's not like quite perfect. That should be sufficient. Yeah, there it is. That looks good. Okay, cool. Okay. But yeah, so I cut off the top end so you can't like actually hear the it doesn't like peak as hard when it comes in. So then we're gonna have for this one, we're gonna change it to FX track 1. And oh no, no. Oh, okay. And then we want to have, where is it? Reverb 1? No, it's like, what's the name of it? Love filter, Spectrumen. Forget which one it is. It's the stereo shaper? No, something like that though. It's not just like the limiter or the reverb. It is reverb too. Okay. crunchy. Okay. That sounds like music. We can make it even more like... I'd like there to be like more, that it goes on for a bit longer. How do I do that? Which one is this? Damp? Okay. What else is there? Okay, so that works for like probably like the melody. Then we need another one that's like oh, and that didn't affect the... Okay, yeah, that didn't affect that. And also we need to slow this down to like, I don't know, 110 is the tempo now. Cool. And we can probably like cut out even more if we need to. I want to see what that sounds like with all the things. All of the things. Insert. Let's put another one of these dudes in. And then we need something like... No. I need something bassy. So it's gonna be somewhere in here. So yeah, I guess we're there. Yeah, that's like almost not music. Alright, cool. We'll use that one. And then another one. And then this one will be... Oh yeah, we need to have this attached to one as well. So it's all like... See, like that just goes... Woo, woo, woo. And it just kind of like... It's there, but it's not important. That's what we want. I was gonna make a self-deprecating joke there, but I'm trying to cut those out of my life. Alright, so... Let's see, what else? We want something that, like... can kind of just be there. So I took a lot of notes and inspiration from the music from like anything Joji's done, and then anything that was on like the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack. They both like fit the criteria of what I want, because the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack, it's the same repetitive thing, but it's so comfy. It's so comfy. And so I wrote down notes on what I want to have that be and how it works. And it's a certain level of just like repetitiveness to the point that you don't really notice it, but it's not like, what is this? That's amazing. Okay. Okay, that's like... so the main thing about like the notes is they can't be like... They can't come in hard. Like, you can't, like, have a sharp stab. It has to be, like, blunt sounding, if that makes sense. How do you stay motivated for so many different projects? It's all interconnected in a lot of ways. And the reason I'm making music in the first place on this channel is because I just needed to have, like, I don't know, I needed music for this channel that I wouldn't have to worry about, like, it getting copyright claimed. Okay, yeah, that is, like, it's a little bit, oh, it's because I have the echo. I was gonna say, that's a little echoey, isn't it? I need something, like, atmospheric. That's evil. Almost. I think this was in one of the songs I wrote, but I got rid of it. Yeah, that's evil sounding too. So like that's not important. That's not good. All right. Well, keyboards, electronic. Did I ever listen to any Porter Robinson? I have no idea what that is. Remind me in a month, the Shiba setup thing. I don't need that. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that could work. Okay. It's too spooky. I don't want something atmospheric and evil, because that just sounds evil. Like that just sounds like a guy's about to like strangle you, like right then and there. I don't know what I have in my downloads folder, and sometimes like I put future projects in. I need to get something out of there because there's like things you can get on your phone where you can like write out music. So I'm just gonna like bring those in. So like I want this track to have the thing, so we can just take the thing that I wrote just like while I was on break, and I'm like, that's not the worst thing I've ever heard. It's not good, but, you know, if I make it all echoey and whatever, then it'll probably sound all right. So I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to take the other bit. Where is it? This one. And this is the one that I want to have. And I need to extend the notes because they're all like quarter notes. And the bass needs to be like half notes, and the rest of it can be quarter notes, and then you need to have just like long things. These are probably not going to work together. They're both in C, so they should, but it's probably going to sound like just a complete garbage mess. Okay, so that's too fast. And everything needs to be slowed right down, like I suspected. All right, so everything is going to get extended by like twice the length, or we just make the ones that are like half notes or whatever, like full quarter notes, and that should extend everything. All right, so, and then we just want to like space them out. I don't really care if they go into each other or not. It sounds a little bit Christmassy, doesn't it? But we can make it work. I think. I'm gonna try and make it work. We'll mess around with it for just a minute, and then we'll go back because it looks like the files have transferred. So I actually don't need to do that anymore. Oh, this is the bass line. I actually need these to be much longer. Okay, so instead of being a quarter note, now they need to be a half note. Bare minimum. And they can be longer than that, but they can't be shorter than that for the bass notes for atmospheric, weird, whatever garbage we're writing. That's how music work. Okay. So then we just want to shift everything over. And then we'll play that, and we'll see if that sounds like a music. And if it sounds like a music, then we can keep working on it. The problem I keep having is, like, the tools that I have, like, I can, like, write something that is a music, but then it isn't, it doesn't sound good with any of the instruments that I have available to me, or any of the instruments that I can make. And I'm still used to trying to make, like, big, loud, like, all-encompassing musics, and it's not what it is. Oh, right, I can actually show you guys what I'm doing now, can I? Art. Here's an art again. And then I'm going to just like, ooh, nope, wrong one. There we go. Okay, cool. Now that's better. That one's too quiet, and we're going to have to fix this a little bit. But I just want it to not be like every note is hit with the exact same intensity. Because that's weird in music. It sounds very robotic. This is not something I'm particularly good at. And more so than even painting, where I've spoken about in the past, where I'm like, this makes me anxious to do in front of people. Art, I'm starting to get less anxious of doing in front of people because I don't want you to restart right now. Laptop, postpone. Thank you. I'm using the laptop as a secondary screen. I need to get one of those, but then I don't. So that's the end of that story. Alright. And they're relative lengths to each other, so they should be fine. So just now if we just listen to this, it's such not a music that you can't even hear it. Let me just maybe turn it up just ever so slightly. Did the stream die? Did the stream die? I should be live. Let me, here, hold on. Am I live? Okay, you can see it. That's a good sign. Refreshing brought it back. Okay, cool. What if this is exactly the same as the base one? I should probably make it like down an octave. So maybe just move all of this down to like C4. And then that way the other bit can be all shimmery and nice and apparent and all of the things that it does, but now it's not like full. Okay, that is too Christmassy. I think that's the issue. Also, why is this not... Okay, hold on. Where is that? Off. No music. No sound for you. Get out of here. Why can I hear it still? I shouldn't be able to hear it. No, not you. You. No? I don't know why that keeps playing despite the fact that the instrument is off and the audio is turned all the way down on it, but okay. And then this is just too much. This is just too much. I think I'm just gonna get rid of this for a minute and just see if this sounds okay. Why are you here? Where are you cursed from? Why can I still hear you? No. You don't exist. You're not real. Ah. Ah. There you are. That needs to be like so much slower. I'm just gonna force it and make it like 75. Just make this song brutally long. See, there I am again trying to write metal. See, this just doesn't work for me. I think it's this. This is too shimmery. Yeah, I'm not good at writing music. Oh well. We'll just get rid of that for now. I'll come back. 75 BPM, yeah, just crank that thing down to nothing. But, yeah, I'm not having any luck. I might just have to hire someone to do the music for me, because I don't know how to write music. Anyway, it appears as if I've transferred all the files over, so now I can just, you know, go back to painting, which is what I'm good at, rather than music, which I'm not. We can go back to listening to actual music. It sounded nice. It was like 2 there. Now I'm playing with my fidget cube. Thanks, Natalie, for reminding me it exists. Can I try? It just makes me nervous. One of the things I really want to do with this channel is have it be me entirely, so that way I can look at it and I can look at how it's going and be like, the reason this channel is successful is because of what I did. Get rid of the monitor capture and then put you guys back. I'm tired of chiptunes. Yeah, same, to be honest. It sounded, yeah, I don't know if it'll sound good. I need to get good at writing music, which probably means that I actually need to go like look into like music theory again, rather than just like taking notes on like stuff. Alright, there we go. Anyway, I was able to stall for a few minutes, which works. Cool. Hi, look at my dirty kitchen. Thanks, camera. You can come back. You can come back and enjoy being here. Okay. So, sorry about the weird camera there for a sec. But is that better? And then let's just tilt it ever so slightly, so that way it's back to where it was, roughly. Close enough. That's good enough, right? Some sound effects like rain and just water running. I think that would help. Oh, the reason I can see a screen is right here. Not because that screen. I think that's right. Now, can you guys see it? You guys can see it. I think we're good. I think we're back. Cool. Alright, let's get what we can out of how much battery life we got. And we're good. Strap the camera directly onto your hand. Welcome to just like the most chaotic and awful way of watching a stream. My shaky hands flying around the screen, forcing you to see just unnatural and unwanted angles. Let's see, so this needs to be like orange. Be orange. Be orange. I was talking about Taoism for a minute. I feel like I don't get it, or I very much get it. One of the two. From my understanding is that, like, it's It's like going with the flow as a philosophy, more so than a religion, almost. But maybe I should avoid talking about it because I actually don't know what I'm talking about. And the handful of Taoist viewers that I've got may be extremely offended at my stupidity. Well, they don't seem like the type. But it seems like an interesting sort of way of looking at things. And it just, I don't know, I've had this idea that progress for the sake of progress is kind of bad for a while. And it seems like that's one of the things that they believe. Not saying that progress is bad, but just saying like progress for absolutely no reason other than to progress is bad. Like, oh, I'm going to buy a new phone. Not because I need a new phone. Not because the new phone's actually going to do anything better for me. But because it'll make me feel better. Because I have a new phone. You know? Like to some degree, I feel like we see new as always being good. And I don't want to sound like a Luddite, but like, it doesn't always end up being the case. But I also don't want to sound like I don't experience new things. It's just like, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain that. Sometimes you can be content with what you have rather than trying to get new things all the time. And that seems to be something that they're about. Maybe I'm totally misinterpreting what they're about. I don't know. Some rain sound effects would be good for music, though. I think that's right. This needs to be a lot brighter. I just gob on yellow at this point because I can't get it bright enough. So this stream's just going to end as soon as the thing runs out of battery. Which won't be too long from now. So I should probably spend this time like fixing the bits that aren't done. Like, I need to work on this section over here. But it's the same orange. Here and here is, like, almost the exact same orange. It also seems like, from what I understand about Taoism, is that, like, you can't have it explained to you because there's not, like, one regimented good way to live. Like, in a lot of other religions, like, it's like, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do that in order to, like, have a happy, fulfilled life. Whereas Taoism is just like, you need to figure out your own way. And that seems neat. I can get behind that. I feel like we've gotten into the habit of needing new things all of the time to the point that we see interpersonal relationships as something that needs to be exchanged. That an old relationship is not as good, and so you can't enjoy it or appreciate it as much as like an old, or like, yeah, an old one. That you need to have, like, you need to exchange new people out for the old ones. You know, you get rid of the old people in your life and you put in new ones. That way you can have a constantly evolving new group of friends, because new is better than old, you know? And I think that's harmful. And I feel like I may be describing something that literally no one cares about, but I do, so I'm going to talk about it anyway, because I'm holding you captive watching, like, me just talk garbage while I paint for, like, 2 to 3 hours. So that's what we're gonna deal with for now. I don't know if that's actually a thing that people do, but I feel like I've seen people who just like, after a while, just get tired of people, and they get tired of certain people, and then they find new people, and they exchange those new people out for the old people. And it's like, I'm not sure what's to blame there, you know? I don't know why we feel like we need to have new things all the time. Like, I should probably get a new chair. I was going to use it as an example, right? But, like, what kind of lunatic actually believes that? I feel like there are people who are like that. Is a sense of lacking? I don't know what it is. Maybe that's it. Sometimes I wonder if it's just like we've commodified how we interact with the world, and that like we have to have new things because new things are better than old things. Get rid of your old vacuum cleaner, it's time to get a new one. Get rid of your old TV, it's time to get a new one. Even though the ones you have are perfectly fine, we've just sort of trained our brains to assume that if it's a new thing, then it's a good thing. But it doesn't mean that a new thing is a bad thing, it just means that it isn't always. This is a pretty song. This is one of the ones that we never listened to, because it's like so far into the soundtrack. That like it just doesn't come up. This is barely a song. Like, I use something until it breaks down. That's like how I was raised. That like you take good care of the stuff you got, and then eventually when it breaks down, you can't fix it, you can't repair it, you can't repurpose it, then you get rid of it, you know? I'm just gonna paint this whole section over here red or orange. And that should work out in a minute. Also need to like fix the floor right here. I need to stop messing with this section. This section's fine. It's honestly pretty okay. I say as I continue to touch it. It's like picking a scab. That's what I'm doing, like artistically right now. It doesn't achieve anything, it doesn't help me in any way, but it does feel nice for a minute until it stops. I am recording, right? Yeah, okay. And the battery thing's blinking, so I was gonna stop because I'm feeling a little bit like less in the mood to paint, but like I'll feel better if I spend the entire time painting. Like if I spend the whole battery's life painting, I'll feel better about myself and how I did it. I use this as like serious crunch time. Try and get as much painting done. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and sling them at me. Otherwise, I'm just going to be kind of silent. We're just going to listen to the jams. I guess it's not so much about offending Taoist as it was I don't want to talk about subjects that I don't understand. Maybe that's it. I think that's it. It's just an exciting new avenue of things to talk about and learn about. I don't think I'll become Taoist, but, you know. I like learning about things like that. Like an entire worldview that's just alien or different from what I usually think. Either enforces or, you know, restructures the way I think about things. You know? So I may not agree with something I read or listen to, but, like, I have to dispute it, I have to talk about it to myself, and I have to, like, figure it out, and then by doing so, I've strengthened or figured out what I'm talking about, you know? Like, I know myself better after having done that. I don't know if anyone else is like that. I guess that's just human, isn't it? To, like, go out and search for information. Looking pretty good. That looks pretty solid. This is bad right here. That's fixable. I'm gonna paint right up until his blue shirt and a little bit onto it, because I know his arms are not right at his sides like that. What's up, Medi? How you doing? We're probably ending the stream pretty soon here because the battery's getting low, but how are you? I was talking to Tilda about this a little bit earlier, but I think if I can quit my day job, what I'm going to try and do is 5 streams a week with the streaming days being like 2 hours of this before a stream, transfer the information over, give myself a little bit of time away from the painting, then do another 2 hours after the stream, and like my regular video game stream stuff of this, and that should allow me to like produce more art, which means that I need to actually like figure out how much I'm worth, so we can sell art, so we can get it out of the apartment, because my apartment's not big enough actually. Now that I think of it, it's not big enough for me making 2 paintings a month, let alone I want to say like 4. So that's gonna be an issue, but that's a good issue. I like problems like that. Yeah, it is a positive mindset again, I guess. Maybe that's the trick. Once you get started on it, it's like drinking caffeine. You can't stop once it gets going. It sounds trite, but like it seems to be working for me. Like as long as I keep on this positive trend, I'm staying on it. Like I've had a couple of days recently where I got super stressed. Like debilitatingly stressed to the point that I couldn't do things. And I keep seeing it, like the stress hanging out, sort of like a cloud in the distance. Like I know it's coming, but it's not here yet, so I'm all right. But I feel it. You know what I mean? It's like a distant murmur that's just there, that I know it's coming. I know it'll be here soon, but I'm just sort of enjoying my time while it's not here, up until it does appear, and then I'll worry about it. But Until then, I'm gonna fix his foot and all that. It's whatever. Looks really good, almost like you made it in vector art. Well, thank you. Oh, I feel it, Reverend Joe. Let me, pop. Now people can see what you said. If I'm gonna respond to it, then, that way you can actually, like, see it. Feels weird not to do that. Okay. I need to have this come down. So, like, it's like blue, a little bit of brown, a little bit of white. And that made like a gross green that I'm going to use for like this bit here. And it's like that, right? Like there. Yes. Later, Corno. Is it as vibrant as that? It's actually more yellow. Oh. Is that it? Ah, okay. So how much extra stream did we get there? We got like an extra 30 minutes or so. What was the question? Mono King Productions? So I can answer it before I have to bounce. But we're out of battery, so we're out of time for today. But it looks like somewhere around like 2 hours and 30 minutes is what we get. Minus a little bit because we spent a little bit longer than the 17 minutes that it took to, or 14 minutes, to transfer the stuff over. Let me scroll up and see what your question was. It's probably a better way of doing it. What's your favorite thing to eat? Burgers. I really like burgers. I really like, yeah, basically burgers. I'd eat them almost exclusively if I could, but that's not good for you. And I do like some variety, so I'm hankering a burger right now. I don't think we have the stuff for burgers. We have the stuff for tacos, so I might have some tacos. That's a nice quick question. We've been making burgers at home recently, and let me tell you, that was the best thing that I've ever figured out that we can do. Like making a burger on the stovetop. It's not quite as good as like a grilled one. And they have like a grilled thing, like a grill downstairs that we could use. Like a community one, but it's also the community grill. So it's like as well maintained as that. I had ostrich on my burger once, like an ostrich egg. It was, eh. Well, Daniel, I mean, honestly, like, I've got, like, several streams of this that are out, on this channel. So if you need more, I guess this goes for the people on After Hours, or, I say After Hours, the people who are watching this, after I'm done being live, you can always check out any of the other Art and Chill, videos. I made a playlist of them. So you can go ahead and just, like, watch that, and then you have, like, probably about, like, 8 hours of it right now. Of like live streams. How do you make your stovetop burgers? They come out a little bit oily. I think that's just how they work, you know? Also, this is the anti-Herman drinking paint method. So I just do this and then we're solid for a bit. But I don't really know. I just sort of accept that it's going to be a little bit more oily and less grilly. I guess I should mention that I have a Patreon, because that's the whole, like, I mean, that this channel exists because I have a Patreon. I can spend the time on it because I have a Patreon. So, if you want, you could do that, or you could go to colinmullen.com and get prints, like I say at the beginning of every video. And then there you go. You got you got some arts that you can support me through the things. Burger. Throw some cheese on that. Oh my god, it's so good. Anyway, I'll try and figure out another song. You just became a patron. Well, thank you, Mono King. People like you are what makes this thing work out in the end, I guess. But with that, and thank you guys. I should say thank you guys for dropping by. You guys are cool for coming and hanging out with me and chilling. And if you're a patron, you're cool for being a patron as well. Go treat yourself right. Get yourself a Borg if you want a Borg. And I don't know if anyone else is live, but that's an option. What if I want a commission? I'm not doing any right now. I'm not a fan of doing commissions, but eventually I might. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good day. Don't die for me. Die for yourself. Wait, that doesn't work. Yeah, you know what I meant. It was stupid, but it made sense before I said it. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. I hope you have a good day. Bye.